Hi, it's Jason from Fraser Valley Rose Farm. Today I want to talk to you about an insect pest called thrips, how to spot their damage, how to confirm their presence, and what to do about them if you have them. Being a rose grower myself, I'm going to use roses as my first example, but these are a pest that are very serious on such crops as tomatoes, peppers, cucumbers, especially in greenhouses. So this information can apply across a wide range of crops. Now, looking at the roses themselves, the first information that I'm seeing is that they are turning brown at the bud stage around the edges here, and the flowers that are opening are not lasting long and are of poor condition, browning out around the edges again and looking very shabby. This is thrips, I can tell, because we haven't had a lot of rain in the past little while. Roses that do tend to ball in wet weather, this is not the problem. So I open up these flowers and I'm going to look inside and I'm going to see the thrips insect themselves. They are long-bodied insects but very tiny, so they kind of have the shape of an earwig or a small cricket if you look at them, but are much smaller, along the size scale of, say, a spider mite, along those lines. Having a look inside here, you can see that they are small, they are fast, and they are tricky because they hide themselves inside the flower and scurry away whenever and conceal themselves whenever there is a threat. This makes them a good contrast to the aphid pests that I've talked about before, which are the first things to arrive in my garden, and they are comparatively large, slow, and stupid because they congregate in big colonies where all the predators can find them. Thrips are not so easy as that to eliminate. Now, I am going to show you here that even in natural conditions, I haven't introduced any predators in here, that I have found minute pirate bugs, or the insidious pirate bugs, inside these flowers as well, already as a predator of these thrips. So nature is already taking its course here. As successful as thrips are, you might think, boy, they would have overrun the world and eliminated all plant life. But no, they have natural enemies, including those pirate bugs I just mentioned, including a couple of other mites that are very beneficial towards taking their populations down. So let's talk about the measures you can use against thrips. Of course, the first step is confirming that you have a problem, and I find that yellow sticky cards are super useful for that. They are attracted to lighter colors, yellows and whites. In fact, you will find them to be a little bit worse on your yellow and white flowers or roses before they go on to the other ones, although I found them on plants with all sorts of colors of flowers. And these yellow sticky cards you put out, it does double duty. It, of course, will show you the thrips on here. I'll give you some close-ups of this card here so you can confirm you have a problem, but it's also trapping the adult stage because they go on here and they can't get back off. So in some way it is reducing the problem as it detects the problem. Now, if you are keeping your eyes open for other kinds of damage, what you're looking for is obviously in the flowers, those poor quality, brown or not opening flowers, but also on your foliage, you're looking for distortions of the growing tips and the leaves. It's very distinctive, almost has a raised outer edge of the leaf, then usually a kind of a twinge in one direction. I'll see if I can get you some pictures on that, but growth distortions is the main thing with thrips. What you'll also see is that their feeding damage is a scraping damage. So it isn't like they're chewing holes in the leaves, but they're actually scraping the surface, leaving behind a distinctively silverish or bronzish discoloration. If you have them badly on your fruits like tomatoes, you'll see distortions in the fruit, misshapen fruit, and you'll also see scabbiness on the fruit as well. So all of those are tip-offs that you're looking for thrips, and then you can put out your yellow sticky cards to confirm, or just dig through those flowers until you see what I showed you on screen already. Getting into ways that you can combat the thrips here, let's talk first about the biological controls. I will talk about chemical controls in a minute, but it's kind of a pointless conversation because they have such resistance to the chemical measures that it's largely become useless in most even production situations, let alone for the home gardener. So let's talk about the biological controls. I mentioned that pirate bug, and pirate bugs are something that are available to be shipped to you. There's something that you can actually buy and apply and put into the flowers, and that they will breed there and spread around the garden and go hunting for thrips. They hunt on the adult stage of the thrips, so just like the yellow sticky cards, The other one is the pirate bugs. Then there are two different mites that are generally available for thrips, and which one you choose will depend a bit on what you're growing. If you're growing ornamentals like this, a really good one to use is called cucumerus. Cucumerus is a little mite that goes around hunting for the juvenile stages of the thrips. So they break the juvenile stage while the pirate bugs can break the adult stage. So you could even apply both for quicker control, or yellow sticky cards plus that cucumerus mite. And as I say, the big advantage of the cucumerus mite is they are widely available in large numbers for an inexpensive cost due to their heavy use in horticulture. The other one that you can use, especially if you're doing veggie crops, is one called Swirsky, which actually tends to outproduce or out-reproduce the thrips on crops like peppers, cucumbers, and tomatoes that have sort of hairy leaves, and those are sites that they can reproduce. So that predator has a particular advantage on veggie crops. Another one that you can apply is lacewings. Now, I think we'll give you one caution on those, that if you're applying those mites, and I know you don't want to overdo it, but don't apply the Swirsky and the cucumerus together, because they'll actually eat each other, which is kind of counterproductive. But one or the other will each predate on the juvenile stages of those thrips. Now, going on to that chemical control conversation, yeah, I guess it would be tough if you had a big crop of strawberries and chili thrips moved in. What are you going to use and not lose your crop? Or are you concerned about the way that thrips can spread viruses in a tomato crop? So yeah, those are tough situations. As I say, most commercial producers have moved almost exclusively to biological controls because in the chemical controls you have things like, probably the last few that actually work are things like abamectin, spinosad, and imidacloprid, but the thrips develop a resistance to that. They reproduce at such a high rate that the survivors will pass on their resistance to that pesticide. So you are left with those options of either increasing the rates, combining pesticides, and of course rotating through them to an increasingly resistant population of thrips. So it really isn't a viable thing to get on that treadmill for most home growers. A couple other quick notes on their management is that in a temperate climate like mine, I expect to see them in the middle of summer. If you're growing in a more tropical climate or a warmer climate or in a greenhouse, they can come any time of year. But since I know when I'm expecting them, I can apply those biological controls right around that time of year as soon as I start seeing them on those yellow sticky cards. A couple other quick measures that you can take part in is if you see that the thrips have moved in aggressively on one particular variety or another, you can remove the flowers quickly, because I mean they're brown anyway around the edges, and apply insecticidal soap after you've removed the majority of their population. That can act as a quick knockdown to get those populations out of that plant so that maybe the next flush can be healthier than that one. When you look at the plants behind me, you may notice that not many of them have flowers on. I actually go through and remove the flowers, because what I'm not trying to do right now is I'm not trying to sell these as plants in color. I'm mainly growing them on for next year. So removal of those flowers not only redirects the energy back into the plant and their additional shoot development, but reduces the risk and the problems related to managing thrips within this greenhouse. So that can be a viable thing for a commercial grower if you have a flowering crop for the following year. All right, that's all I had for you on thrips. I hope that answered some of your questions. If you have any additional questions or comments about thrips, please go ahead and drop those into the comments below the video, and I'll see what I can do to help.